Hey Lars, I'm just gonna go, I guess. I'll put some timestamps in in an email or something, just so you know, kind of where things are, for more interesting parts of anything I might have to say. So yeah, I was only in Austin for about a year, and only worked at Vulcan for about 8 months or so, and I keep telling people who ask about Austin stuff that the things I miss the most from Austin are tacos, HEB, and Vulcan Video. Both as an institution, as a place, and working there as well. Um, you kind of just knew you were in a good place when you went there, not just as a customer, because of their selection, their that ran the gamut from all kinds of wild Hong Kong stuff that I'd been looking for a bit. Their Johnny Toast section was just massive. And the director's wall, I remember one of the first things I did there when I saw there was a director's wall is I wanted to look to see who was there, just to see, like, what the canon was. If there was anyone that hadn't heard of, I was fresh out of college, just trying to see as much as I could, as well. Wow, I could. Um, also, just when I eventually applied and got a call to work, got a call for an interview. I interviewed with Kristen and Brian. I think Kristen was still the GM at that point, and Brian was just about to take over full time. And I remember the one thing I thought I somewhat flubbed one interview question, where they asked me, um, what studio comedy that you've seen lately that you would like recommend to like your mom's friends, like the best one that you could just like kind of give to anybody. And I don't watch a lot of those movies, and I hadn't for a while. The last one I had seen at that point, it was 2016, so I had seen the Ghostbusters movie, which I was okay. I was like, I guess I could recommend that. But a few days before, I had seen a studio comedy. Technically, I watched Freddy Got Fingered, and for some reason, the only movie that popped into my head there was Freddy Got Fingered, and I spent a few minutes just thinking, like, okay, studio comedies, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah, blah. Freddy got fingered, Freddy got fingered, but you can't say that. So I just kind of like I was like, okay, I don't watch a lot of these, and I wouldn't say this, but for the last one of these I watched was Freddy Got Fingered, and I can't think of anything else, which immediately, piqued their interest. They're like, "Why were you watching that movie?" Kind of an off the wall question answer to that question, I guess. And then I tepidly was like, "I guess Ghostbusters," because I saw that, even though it's fine. And then I got the call, and then I got the call later, said I got the job, and I was super happy. Not really just for the money, but just to be another part of Austin's cultural scene, Austin's movie cultural scene, because that's what Vulcan was. That's what Vulcan. It not just in the partnerships, with other places, and how it made some of AFS's infrastructure possible, but just there were people there, and there were people who were part of the Austin film scene there, like Wilson Smith, um, who I worked with every weekend, for those 8 months. Also, I remember walking in, my first shift, and looking in the rafters behind just looking around at all the memorabilia, and looking in the rafters above the stacks, and seeing the life-size statue of Watto from Star Wars, which is my friends back home. It's their favorite detail about the place that I told them, just because they thought that would be funny. Um, and it's Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's a loss for words. It kind of puts you at a loss for words, with it gone. And it's not just, it's the people there, right? No, my coworkers, who, I was lucky enough to work with some awesome folks, with Chris Giles, with Wilson, with Brian Cobbs for a little bit, Daniel Hendricks, and pretty much everybody. I worked with a whole lot of people, just over the years or over the months, for shifts and, shift partners. And it was like, and I mean, it was also kind of being someone fresh out of college who didn't really know what he was doing or what he wanted to do, and even I'm still kind of in that boat, just not fresh out of college anymore. And especially, when it was being thrown into, the 2016 presidential election, and everything that came from that. It was a really kind of, I'd only been working about a month before Trump got elected, so, it kind of became my sanctuary a bit. I was kind of like a lot of people. I was anxious, very much so. Um, but in Vulcan, I knew that my Friday and Saturday nights and my Tuesdays and whatever shifts I took, I would have a place to just decompress, shoot the shit, commiserate in everything. Um, and like a specific example of something that happened there is I remember, it was late at night, because I worked the evening shifts, and the travel ban had just come down, um, and like I was seeing this all breaking, and people being like detained in airports and not being and wrestled in and thrown in flights off the state out of the states, and it was unconscionable, it was unthinkable, and it was just horrifying. And I remember as this was all going down, and me and I think it was Chris I was working with, we're both just like, holy shit, this is crazy, this is horrible. And to decompress, we we decided, you know what, let's just throw on Face Off. And for about 15 minutes, the beginning of Face Off, everything up until the the big car crash, exploding everything, when Cage is feeling up the feeling up the church singers and stuff, and going nuts. Just for that time, it all kind of everything else kind of faded away, and it was like, just the joy of movies and the joy of, being with people who also like-minded people who are also using that as an escape. And, it's just a wonderful moment. And I distinctly remember just like that, feeling normal again for a little bit, feeling just like everything wasn't burning down for just a little bit, just a few minutes. And yeah, we could just always shoot the shit, talk about movies, learn about new movies. Connolly, the Sage, introducing me to all kinds of weird, crazy shit, and I started watching Wong Jing movies because because on his recommendation, and on being shown stuff like City Hunter and, man, other stuff. It was fun, because you could just it was part of it was, you could watch them put on a movie, and, talk to people, give recommendations, which any young interested movie person loves to do. Loves to give opinions on stuff. And I also felt like I was able to do, kind of put a little stamp on something. I guess I was a little art. I was kind of my shelf. Part of the shelf was like the artier section, I guess, of the camera picks, and I know that I was able to get people to see films like The Strange Little Cat, or like Pulse. No, or it was Cure, actually. Cure was the one that I hawked a whole lot. Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure. Um, and or like a Kiarostami movie, and I know that just being able to put that on there I was able to expose more people to stuff that they maybe wouldn't have seen, because it would have been buried in the Germany section, or would have been buried in Iran, or what have you. It was also an education for me to see more genre stuff, because that was the one thing that tripped me up as as a worker, because everyone wants to go, to the video store, is asking for a horror movie. You're gonna get like 10 people who were like, "Hey, what's a good horror movie that I haven't seen?" And I'm a little underseen on that. I was a scaredy cat as a kid. I still haven't really seen a lot of the 80s slashers and stuff, so I would have to. So I would have some stuff in the back pocket. Cure was mine. Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure. That was the one that I would always tell people. That it's like, slow and creepy and dreadful and stuff. But I got to learn all that through, working with the other people, like these guys, like these video store rats who knew all this stuff, who knew those movies, and or knew about some of the weirder things that either were more prevalent in like Austin film culture, that I hadn't experienced until I moved there, of course. Weirder off the beaten path, like sequels, things that were underappreciated, or it was good. Sorry, this is, I guess, another tangent. It was good to kind of to talk to people who also would be like, hey, talking shit about Michael Bay or talking shit about M. Night Shyamalan or what have you. That's kind of lazy a lot of the times, who would be like, hey, Bad Boys 2 is great. Because I remember I'd been preaching Bad Boys 2 to whoever would listen to me for a bit, and any sector, um, and just you were able to find common ground with these people, with the people both in the store, with the customers, learn people's weirdo tastes and stuff, kind of share those things. And with the customers in the store, just there was also a pleasure of, um, like, you'd put on a movie, right? And you'd have it play, and you're like, I would put this on because we love this. I remember two times that I distinctly remember are, one time we put on Bernie, the Richard Linklater film, Jack Black, and then another time when I was working with Connolly, we decided to put on Holy Motors once it turned 10 and we could show R-rated stuff. Just because hey, it's a hell of a movie and I hadn't seen it since like the theater. Um, and both times, either you'd get people who, they'd walk around and they'd stop a little bit while they were waiting in line to check out, or they'd stop a little bit while they were just in the middle of, perusing the TV section or something and just watch and either be like, I love this. Or I remember when we put on Bernie, this one guy, um, he was with his wife and they were checking out and they had pulled everything, and then he was like, and then in line they were talking and he was like, oh, this is a great movie, and she's like, what is it? He's like, you haven't seen this movie? You haven't seen Bernie? I thought we saw it. And she was like, no. So he was like, we're gonna rent this right now. Or with Holy Motors, you'd get people watching the screen like during the scene where he's like eating the flowers and stuff, and like, just be like, "What the hell is this?" But in like a good way, you know. Um, Again, it's part of, feeling like you're kind of exposing people to some stuff, helping people, exposing people to art, exposing people to things they wouldn't otherwise necessarily see, um, and just blowing someone's mind a little bit. Um, Yeah, that's the other thing. The regular customers. I miss them a lot. It was great. We had to, just you'd see a couple of people's dogs come in every shift. Just beautiful animals. There'd be guys like the old punk who would only rent Nashville. He was going through the TV show Nashville, the ABC show. Um, dude all decked out and just doing that, and I was like, yeah, you, you do your thing, man. um are people who just appreciated the store. Like, there was a guy who would, when we were still open till 2 down south, he was a guy who worked at ABGB, and every night at midnight, every Saturday night, he would come by around midnight, a little after midnight. He'd come by on his bike and he'd bring us big old pizza box with, assorted pizzas from ABGB, like weird stuff, like the ones with like pizzas with like sweet potatoes and and stuff on it, not just, like pepperoni slice. like fancy pizzas. And he'd bring it for free just because he was like, "Yeah, I love you. I love the store. I love what you guys do. Figured you could use some pizza." And I was like, "Yeah, cool. That's awesome." And that was my dinner some nights. I would just be like, I'm not that hungry. I could go to Taco Bell, or I could wait like 30 minutes, and then Fitz is gonna come by with the pizzas. Um, there was this one time when we were working, and it was and all night. We could hear like some bass, some kind of, and some yelling or something, and just some other PA system, and we were like, "What the hell is this?" And like, what's going on? No, I didn't know where it was coming from. We were like, I guess it's just someone out in the neighborhood behind us. And then later that night, this guy comes in, and he's decked out. He's got a big beard. He's decked out in like full German lederhosen, like the whole like mountaineer, like Ricola guy, get up. And he was like, "Hey, we were having a party back there. I live back there. We were having a party, projecting it. We project stuff on your wall sometimes, and we just thought just everyone left, and I have all this extra beer, and figured you guys could have it." And we just looked at each other like, "Yeah, I'll take free beer." So we came out of there with like a dozen beers, split between me and Wilson to take home for free. Um, People really appreciated the place. People treated it with respect. You'd get your occasional customer who would be like, why can't we buy stuff off the wall? um, but like, yeah, you felt that appreciation for the place, just with the people, and with the people who came, with the people who worked there, who we all knew we were lucky to be a part of this and have access and give access to people, um, with all this stuff. Um, Yeah, and I just miss the place a lot. It's the best job I ever had. I mean, not the best pay, of course, but didn't work there for the pay. Um, and actually, when I was thinking about earlier, just talking about like getting through, how it helped me get through the hard kind of transition period from that old world to that new world we live in now, or that brief new world that maybe kind of that's maybe kind of past even. Um, and I'm kind of wearing my Columbo shirt just somewhat by coincidence, but um, being able to rent all the Columbo when I couldn't really focus on movies, when I couldn't focus on turning a movie on for an hour and a half, being able to rent Columbo from that place and being able to watch it, when I just needed something to turn my brain off. That's something that helped me through. That's something that kept me strong, kept me feeling somewhat sane, kept me calming down. Um, yeah, just it's given the gift of movies, as they might want to say, but also fostering fostering community. Not just in the outreach things we did. I wasn't at Vulcan, when we started. I've been long gone, after they started doing, all the in-house screenings and, really cool programming that everyone's been putting together there. Um, but it's the kind of place that's easy to foster from. The kind of small place that is by the community, for the community, in the community. Um, we'd partner with weird places. I remember we had like an occult, sale, one it was like an Easter weekend or something, and we had like these people, use the garage space, in the store to sell like petrified animals and stuff, and carvings and crafts and stuff like that. And I was just like, where are you gonna get that? Where are you gonna see all these things in the same place? Who's gonna host that? That's so already entrenched in beautiful Austin film scene. It's gonna be a sadder place without it. There's not really a replacement for people who can go and pay less than they would for Netflix or something and get 100 times more of the content. And it's and I mean, my heart's been going out. I've been thinking of all the folks that I worked with there who'd been there over the years, over the times. AJ, like lifers like AJ and Connolly and Chris Giles and Wilson and Brian Cobbs. I didn't work there for a bit, but Danny, Nathaniel, all these folks. And I'm just glad that I crossed paths. I'm just glad that I was able to that was lucky enough to be able to be a part of it, be a part of all of it. Yeah, and I guess that's what I got right here. Um, Maybe I can try and think of thing personally that I was most thankful for Vulcan. I remember before I worked there when I was still interning. I went there and I had been wanting to see Hirokazu Korieda's Afterlife for like years, for like a decade, maybe even. When I'd first heard of it, it sounded awesome, and I would just be like Korieda's Master, blah blah blah. But this is like big movie that had been out of print. That DVD was long since out of print. By the time I was looking for it, it had screened at my college the year before I got there, um, and of course they had that DVD. They had it. Couldn't find it anywhere. Couldn't find it, and I mean, you couldn't find it on Amazon for less than like $100. You couldn't. Wasn't it? You couldn't find it at I Love. But it was there. It was at Vulcan. I took it and I watched it and was impressed. You know, finally got to cross that one off. I do wish that I worked out. I do wish that I worked out the Hong Kong section a little more over there, man, because they had like all this Johnny Toe, all this Takashi Miike that we mostly worked out like in the store. That's where I mostly would watch that stuff, like on shift. Um, all the Golden Harvest stuff, I watched I got to learn a little bit about that while trying to watch Wong Jing movies. Um, yeah, it's just again, this is stuff that you can't that you couldn't find anywhere, or you couldn't find anywhere easily, or you'd have to pay an arm and a leg to get everything, and you just go and pay a couple bucks and you'd have it for 5 days. It's a remnant of a better time of times that I mean I didn't even get to experience it when I was a kid. We had Blockbuster and stuff around my hometown of Lexington in Kentucky, but that was it. I mean, I saw some stuff there, but nothing like Vulcan, right? There's nothing like Vulcan. There'll never be anything like Vulcan. And I just gotta like raise my glass. It's water, but I'll raise my glass and toast Vulcan forever. Hope this gives you something to cut in. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe, and hope everyone at AFS is holding up during this time. So thanks for asking. Thanks for asking. Hope this could give you some stuff to use. Hope I didn't screw up the sound with things, but yeah. All right. Bye, Lars.